Dear friends, welcome to the Buddhist Heritage Series presented by the Malaysia Buddhist Festival and Selangor Buddhist Development Council. Today's presentation will be on the giant Buddha statues of Kelantan. Buddhism as practiced in contemporary Malaysia is influenced by the Mahayana, Theravada, and Vajrayana traditions. Buddhists in Malaysia are mostly ethnic Chinese, with smaller groups of adherents from amongst the Siamese, Sinhalese, and a small community from Myanmar. Theravada Siamese wats or temples in Malaysia are mostly managed by local Siamese monks, with some who came from Thailand, especially during major festivals or events. More than half of the Siamese wats are situated in Kedah Police, while Kelantan is having about a quarter of them. Well, if all of you are ready, let's go for a tour of Siamese wats in Kelantan. I'll be taking you to visit at least 8 of the Siamese wats in Kelantan, including 4 which have a huge Buddha statue. The first one is Wat Potivihan at Kampung Jambu, Tumpat, where the reclining Buddha is situated. The next one is Wat Machimaram in Kampung Jubaka, Tumpat. The next one will be the Wat Pikotong at the Kampung Terbak, Tumpat. And further down on the southeast side, we're going to go to Wat Potkian, Putakam. And we move on to the oldest wat in the Kelantan, that is the Wat Chon Prachumtat Chanaram. And we move on to the wat with the most beautiful ubosot in Kelantan, that is the Wat Utamaran. And we go to further up near to the also Tumpat area at the Wat Sukontaram, which has a large area for activities. And finally, we're going to drop by at Wat Prachichinaram at the Wakaf Baru, where we're going to meet a lot of the Peranakan Cina of Kelantan. Now, Kelantan is a state at the northeast of Peninsular Malaysia, as you can see, and it has a land area of 15,040 kilometers square, with 10 administrative districts, or known as Jajahan in Kelantan. This is each of the Jajahan that you can see, 10 of them, right? And the largest being in Gua Musang. Now, the state population in Kelantan is estimated to be about 1,883,800, with about 1.8 million and 70,800 of them are Malaysian citizens. The Bumiputra group comprise 96% of the citizens, while ethnic Chinese has 58,600 persons, Indian 5,200, and the others category has 11,700. Most of the Siamese Malaysians in Kelantan are Buddhists following the Theravada traditions, with the exception of some who are Muslims. Kelantan is separated from the southern Thailand's province of Narathiwat by the Sungai Golok, and it is historically both sides of the populations, whether they are Thais or Siamese in Kelantan, have similar cultures and heritage since centuries ago. Until now, most scholars and researchers are still not sure when did the Thai or the Siamese community actually starts to reside in Kelantan. But officially, the origins of Siamese Malaysians can be traced to the early 1900s, when the Bangkok Treaty or the Anglo-Siamese Treaty was signed, and it created a new demarcation of the border between Siam and Kelantan. But it is known that the Siamese has been living at both sides of Sungai Golok for much longer period. The Tabao town, which is across the Golok River on the upper portion of Tumpat, was part of Kelantan before the 1909 Bangkok Treaty. Now, with a reference to a publication by Wat Machimaran, It is claimed that during the late 12th century AD, there was a migration of a Siamese community from the Naratiwat area that they crossed over to Sungai Golo and over to Tumpat area. This is where that is being claimed in the publication. Now, when we look at it, that the Siamese community in Kelantan, who are they actually? And if you look carefully, if without them actually speaking the language, you might be mixed up that they are looks like local Malays. Well, the Siamese community in Kelantan, they has a background of changing of their citizenship or their place of domicile because of history. Now, let's go back a little bit on the history about 200 years ago. In 1826, an agreement known as the Burney Treaty was signed in Bangkok between the Siam and also the United Kingdom. The treaty had acknowledged the Siamese kingdom claims over the four northern Malay states of Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, and Perlis. But later on, about 100 years later, with a stroke of pen on 10 March 1909, when the Anglo-Siamese Treaty or the Bangkok Treaty was signed between the Kingdom of Siam and the United Kingdom, Siamese living in Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, and Perlis became the subjects of Malay states under the protection of the British. The ancestors of these Siamese have been living as part of the vassal states of Siam until the 1909 Bangkok Treaty changed their status. The Siamese in these states did not initiate the change of their place of domicile. It was the international boundary which was shifted. The Bangkok Treaty 1909 Article 1 stated that the following: the Siamese government transfers to the British government all rights of sovereignty, protection, administration, and control whatsoever which they possess over the states of Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, Perlis, and adjacent islands. The frontier of these territories are defined by the boundary protocol annexed hereto. Dear friends, we go to the existence of the wards. There are 25 Siamese wards in the whole of Kelantan. The district of Tumpat is the smallest district, as you can see earlier in the map, but it has the most Siamese wards in the state. It is estimated that there are about 6,000 local Siamese residing in the district, which is also the largest concentration of local Siamese in the whole of Kelantan. Now, with the existence of 12 wards in the smallest district of Kelantan, we may assume that each temple in Tumpat is averagely serving about 500 Siamese residents each. But when other devotees or temple goers, especially the Chinese community from outside of the Siamese villages, are included as the temple beneficiaries, the temple's devotees who have exceeded the local Siamese community, especially during major religious events like Katina and Vesak Day celebrations. Now, there are these 25 Siamese wards. They are also a smaller version of the place of worship for the Siamese community is called Samnak Song. These Samnak Songs, officially there are 5 that, but there are also others which is in a small scale, which is not either popular or recorded by the Siamese Sangha authorities. Now, Samnak Song is a small scale, as I mentioned, small scale Siamese Buddhist place of worship, but very significantly, it is without a ubosot or boat building where the Upasampada ceremony or ordination hall is there. Now, some of those Samnak Songs can be situated in a residential building or built with the wooden or only just temporary structures. Now, based on the reports I made of the statistic department, with the 66,000 local Siamese residing in district, we can see that the importance of the Siamese Buddhist temples. because these temples are not only the venue for religious gatherings, but also as community centers where Siamese Malaysians get together to socialize, to study, and interact with each other. Now, you can see the breakdown of the names of the Siamese Wats in Tumpat. There's a 12 Wats plus 1 Samnak Song. In Kota Baru, there's 1. And in Pasir Mas, there's 3 Wats plus 2 Samnak Song. In Bacho, there are 3, including the Wat Potikayan, the Putakam, which I mentioned earlier. Pasupute, there are 2 Wats and 1 Samnak Song. There's none in Machang at this moment. In Tanah Merah, there is 1 Wat plus 1 Samnak Song. There's no any Wat or Samnak Song recorded in Jelly. But in Korakrai, there are 2 Wats. And one of the newest Wats in Kelantan is in Guamusang, okay, the largest district in Kelantan. There is a Wat Utisat Tamo Waram. But I want to highlight that some of those Wats, actually, is in recent years, they have been neglected because there's lack of the Siamese monks, or because of the support from the local, because there are not many Siamese living in the area. But with the efforts of the some other larger Wats, they have been actually helping out. The list that you see here, some of them previously was abandoned, but actually now has been revived. Now, if you look at it, that as I mentioned, the districts in Kelantan, there are 10 of them. The smallest being in Tumpat, but they have 12 Wats, right? And the largest in Kelantan, there is Guamusang with a land area of 8,179 kilometers square. There's 1 Wat, even though that site, they don't have many Siamese community there. But you can see that the district of Tumpat has 3 temples with huge Buddha statues. And in Bacho, there's 1 at the Wat Potikayan Putakam at Kampung Balai. Now, with the erection of the giant Buddha statues in Kelantan since the late 1970s, what are the impact and changes brought to the Wat and to the surrounding local Siamese community? What are the spillover changes or the effects that brought by this Buddha statue to the local populations, their lifestyle and other sectors? To know that, let's have a visit to these Wats and have a closer look at the 4 colossal Buddhas, which are in 4 postures, which is in reclining posture, sitting, walking, and standing posture. Now, the first Wat that we're going to go will be the place where the earliest huge Buddha statue to be built in Kelantan. That is Wat Poti Vihan in Kampung Jambu, Tumpat. Now, in this Wat is about 18 kilometers from Kota Baru, the state capital of Kelantan. The temple is also known as the Bodhi Tree Wat. That's a Poti, okay, was established about 300 years ago. Now, the reclining Buddha, which is 41.15 meters or 135 foot long, with a height of 10.67 meters and 10.36 meter wide. It was started to be built in 1973 with donations from the villagers of Kampung Jabu. Now, it was completed 6 years later in 1979. For the record, this is the largest reclining Buddha statue in Malaysia. Now, replacing the previous reclining Buddha, which was built in Penang in the Wat Chaya Mangalaram, which is measured about 108 feet or about 33 meters, which was built in 1958. Now, if the photo that you are looking at now, it was a photo actually taken after it was completed in 1979 at Wat Poti Vihan, and it is without the roof because the roof was only built in 1984, right? Being that because they want to protect this huge Buddha statue from being affected by the weather elements like the sun and the rain. We know very well in the East Coast, in Kelantan, at the end of the year, the raining seasons, and during other times, the temperature can be very hot, and it might affect the this Buddha statue. That's why they built this the roof over this statue a few years after it was completed. The statue. Now, the reclining Buddha statue was built by the fifth abbot of the temple, by the name of Prakru Prachakon, or fondly known as Po Tan Hua. He lives from 1933 until his passing away in 2013. Po Tan Hua is a Malaysian Chinese from a village in Ketere, Kelantan, and his Chinese name is Li A Guan. Now, interestingly, Po Tan Hua speaks various languages, including Chinese, Thai, Bahasa Malaysia, and English. And it is known that actually he also learned Buddhism in English through the correspondent course actually managed by the Buddhist Missionary Society in the 1960s. And Po Tan Hua was conferred a Praku title by His Majesty the King of Thailand in 1984 for his contributions to Buddhist work in Kelantan, especially to the community around. Now, currently, the current abbot in charge of this Siamese Buddhist temple is Praku Sanggarak Kok Wai Chandupamo. And interestingly, this Praku Sanggarak Kok Wai is also Malaysian Chinese by the name of Sun Kok Wai. Now, I would like to share during my visit to this temple for my research for my first degree in 1989. I went to pay a visit to Po Tan Hua to interview him about the Buddhism in Kelantan and development. And I did ask about this huge Buddha statue that he has constructed, and that was 1989. Means that by the time the roof is already been built, okay, and the area that you look at now is existing. But this photo is in 2019. But at that time the roof is already been built, and I did ask him why he wants to build a huge Buddha statue, and he told me that the huge Buddha statue will attract many people to the temple. And when we fast forward to many years later, we can see that his foresight of what he has predicted was indeed proven true. The huge Buddha statue not only draws visitors to the Wat, but it also created a trend among Siamese Wats in Kelantan to build giant Buddha statue, which later became tourist attractions. Now, not only that, these huge statues also been built for Bodhisattva Kuan Yin and also other Chinese deities or gods in a number of Siamese Wats. And because this is a link to the support of the Chinese devotees, and indirectly also to attract more Chinese to visit the temples. Now, if you look at it, that the next one we're going to move on will be we're going to Kampung Jubaka. Now, Kampung Jubaka is very interesting. Is considered the one of the largest Siamese community with a lot of villages around the area at the Kampung Jubaka, and also it has three actually Siamese Wats in that one area. It is said that this particular area, the Siamese community already migrated to Kampung Jubaka from Narati Wat, that is the southern Thailand district, around 1183 AD, when southern Thailand was still under the rule of Sri Vijaya. Now, the names for this Machimaram, what Machimaram was derived from the word Machim, means center, and Maram means temple, right, or abbot. This Wat is situated between two other wards in Kampung Jubaka, which are actually what Machimara is at the middle, and you can see the Wat Prachunta Chanaram at opposite side of the Wat Machimara, and the third one is at Wat Pikuyai, at the northern side of Wat Machimaran. And you can notice that Wat Machimaran is actually at the center between two other Wats. And you can see many of the villages, houses here are mostly the Siamese community. And this is a huge community of Malaysian Siamese here. Now, the Wat Prachuntak Chanaram, like I mentioned, is just across. This is what Prachuntak Chanaram. This is actually the main original shrine hall of the Wat Machimaran, and you can see here that this is the shrine hall of the Wat Pikuyai, right? And each temple caters to the needs of a certain number of villages. Wat Prachuntak Chanara has about 150 families in 11 villages. Wat Machimaran, 5 villages with 130 families, and Wat Pilkuyai with 8 villages accommodating 130 Siamese families. Now, the huge 30 meters high Dhyana Mudra, or the meditation posture Buddha statue, was built between 1991 to year 2000 by the previous abbot who passed away in 2016, the late abbot Praku Vitit Dhammanat, or also known as Potantit by the devotees. Right now, this sitting Buddha is a common feature of the representation of the Buddha, and if you can see this posture in many places, in many countries, because it represents the teachings, meditation. Depends sometimes, or you look at the hand, the mudras, how it's been represented. Now, for the information of all, this Wat Machimaran sitting Buddha, even though it is the largest in Malaysia, but in the world, the largest actually sitting Buddha is in Thailand. That is in a place called Antong province. And the statue in Thailand stands at 92 meters high, or about 300 feet high in a sense. And it was completed, that time was in 2008, meaning that actually the sitting Buddha in Wat Machimaran, for one time, it was considered the highest in Southeast Asia. Yeah. Now, his Potantit is also recognized to have started a religious school and also the Thai language school at the Wat in 1969 for the children from the surrounding nearby villages. As I mentioned, there are many actually Siamese villages around this temple, and this Wat actually with the schools, it does helps because for the children to learn about Buddhism and also learn their Thai language. Now, Potantit also started the only Wat in Gua Musang, as I mentioned earlier. There is a Wat Utisatamo Wakraman in Gua Musang in 1989. Right. So this is even though the Siamese community are not huge in Gua Musang, but because the land was donated by a Chinese devotee, and Potantit decided to build a Wat there. Now let's move on to another temple, a place called Wat Pikutong. And what is interesting, there's two things that we need to take note about this temple. First, that actually Wat Pikutong was the first temple in Kelantan to receive the symbolic royal katina robes presented by the then Thailand's King Bhumipol Aduyadej, right, to the chief monk in November 2008. Now, it is not always that a temple or receive the royal katina robes. Yeah, so this was the first in Kelantan and to receive that. Now, the moment you enter this temple, you can you can see this huge walking Buddha, golden color walking Buddha very clearly. in a temple's compound with the gesture of fearlessness, or in the abhaya mudra. Now, the walking Buddha is about 15 meters tall, about 50 foot high. Now, it was started to be built in 1986 and completed 10 years later in 1996. This Buddha statue is also known as the Buddha Lila statue. Now, when you see Lila in Thai, it means the attitude of the in Thai art of where the Buddha is stepping with his right foot and his right hand swinging, and the other hand put towards the front in this stuff Abhaya mudra. Now, the type of concept of this walking Buddha actually is a very distinctive feature of Thai art, especially during the 13th century during the Sukhothai period. Now, the whole structure, if you look carefully, the statue itself is only 15 meters, but the whole structure, including the base, is about 60 meters high. Yeah? And then in comparison, we can see that this type of walking Buddha statue actually is also what I call it, a copy from Thailand back, because in Thailand there are similar walking Buddha statue like this, right? And it was built before that. But the tallest standing Buddha, not necessarily walking Buddha, the tallest standing Buddha actually ever built in the world now stands in China, Henan, right? It was completed in 2008. And that is the tallest standing Buddha statue, which is 128 meters, right? Situated in Henan, China. That is at the Spring Temple Buddha. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you look at it, that during the Sukhothai period between 1238 to 1438, the walking Buddha's features was actually developed. And if you notice carefully, most of the time when we see those standing Buddha, where actually the foot both are placed on the ground. But this one, if you look carefully, actually it is there's some lifting out of the right leg. Yeah, so this is where we can see. And Sukhothai, during the Sukhothai period, the third Sukhothai king, known as Ramakamheng, he was born in 1237 and he rules between 1279 to 1298. And this king, he is the one who actually requested the monks from Tambralinga at the southern side here, near the Nakhon Sitamarat. At that time is the kingdom of Ligor. He invited the monks from here to actually go to Sukhothai to propagate the Theravada Buddhism. Now, Buddhism in Thailand already existed before that, but it is can be a Mahayana and also earlier stage of Buddhism since the 3rd century BC. And this King Ramakamheng, he actually promoted the Theravada Buddhism and formally adopted Theravada Buddhism as Sukhothai's official religion during that time and until now. Now, Wat Pikutong, you can look carefully the whole area here. Now, this particular area, if you look at it, there are many facilities. Now, there is a huge Buddha image here, the walking Buddha. Now, this is Ubosot or the boat. There's ordination hall, and you can see that actually here it is the schools, the Dhamma school and the Thai language school. Yeah. So if you look carefully here, this whole structure, the place is a place where actually a lot of the Chinese community can actually congregate and have activities together. Now, in 2017, the Kelantanese government gazetted this temple together with other 8 temples to be the Siamese community cultural and recreation site, indirectly as a religious center. Now, the other 8 that been gazetted, including Wat Machimaran, Wat Prachumtat Chanaram, Wat Sukuntaram, Wat Pikuyai, Wat Mai Suwankiri, or the Dragon Boat Temple, Wat Chon Prachumtat, Wat Potivihan, Wat Silaloy, and Wat Prachachinaram. Now, all these wats, these 9 wats, including the other wats in Kelantan, are supervised by the Siamese Sangha Council of Kelantan. I will talk more about this on the Sangha Council later stage in my presentation. Now, we go further down about an hour plus from Tumpat to visit the Bacho and the temple in Kampung Balai called Wat Potekian Putakam. Now, Wat Potekian in Bacho was abandoned a couple of times until 1993, when some Chinese devotees decided to revive it and invited a monk from Thailand to be the resident monk. Now, after that, the place was developed, and later stage, the temple built a 108-foot tall Amitabha Buddha. Now, the features are very Chinese Mahayana features. Okay, as you can see, that is Amitabha Buddha, and also the Kuan Yin images in the temple. It shows the type of strong and active participation of the Chinese Buddhists in the Theravada temple. For your information, this Buddha statue was sourced from Taiwan. It was built in 2002 and completed in 2009. Yeah. Now, this is what you can see. Some of those structures. If you're going to visit this place, if this is the first structure that you're going to see, you might actually thought that you are in a Chinese Mahayana temple rather than in a Theravada Buddhist temple. Right? And what is more interesting is also when you entering this particular temple, you will be welcomed by 2 large, huge green dragons designed in a typical Chinese style at the front gate. Now, if you look at it, that this gate, not the usual the arch that you saw in other Siamese Thai temples, the Wats, but this is in a very Chinese style. Now, if you look at it, that the dragon actually it actually surrounded actually the whole temple, right? If you can see that it surrounded the whole temple, as I can show you that this one, you see from here, actually is leaning all the back, right, until behind here. There are 2, until here, right? So this is where the 2 green dragons. Now, what are the functions of Siamese Wats in Kelantan? Now, you see, the population is not very big, but they are considered many Siamese places of worship. The building of a Wat is culturally and religiously entrenched with the existence of a Siamese village, right? And there are many integral reasons for the Siamese community to have a Wat to complement with their village. The Wat provides the following function for the villagers. First, for religious practice and also merrymaking. That means including learning Buddhism and also self-cultivation. And it is also a place for social and community gathering, having activities together. And it is a center of education that I mentioned. They also have Thai classes and Dhamma classes. It is also an information center where actually the residents will be able to get information about the government policies, about what happenings in the community. Yeah, and also this is something that some people might go there, especially for medication or healing services, particularly from the resident monks, yeah, from who can be well versed. I'll explain a little bit on this later stage in my presentation. Now, to have some idea on the roles of the Wats and its connection and importance to the local Siamese community, let's visit some other Wats and understand the background of the temple, the monks and the devotees involved. Yeah. So this slide you can see actually this is Ubosot. Yeah, this is the Ubosot, right? And from here you can see this is the Sima stones. Yeah. If you want to see whether that one is Ubosot, you must check. There's a Sima stones here. These Sima stones all together, if you can look at it, outside you can see actually there are 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's the number 9 at inside of this Ubosot. Yeah. This one will be explained in another series of the presentation. Now, let's go to the oldest known Siamese Wat in Kelantan. That is Wat Chon Prachum Tat Chanaram at the Kampung Dalam. Yeah. Now, this one is actually also beside a river. Most of the Siamese Wats in Kelantan are built beside a river, just like many other temples even in Kedah. Now, this the Wat Prachum Tat, okay, you can see that is a very important historically, because during the time when Kelantan was a vassal state of Thailand, like I mentioned before, this 1909 Bangkok Treaty, the Thai kingdom actually appointed a monk that based it as a Siamese council, just like we see currently in the modern time, the other country appointed a consul general or the ambassador in another foreign country. During that time, actually, the Thai kingdom actually appointed a monk who is based in this temple. Now, in the early 20th century, during the reign of King Chulalongkorn or Ramavi, the abbot of this temple, Tan Cha Kiu, was appointed as a chief monk of the Siamese Sangha of Kelantan. Right now, the appointment was formalized by the Sultan of Kelantan, Sultan Muhammad IV, who reigned from 1899 to 1920. Now, I'll explain further about the relationship between the Siamese chief monk and the Kelantan royalty later stage. Yeah, so we will move on to that later. Okay, now after actually the demise of Tan Cha Kiu, his position as abbot of Wat Chon Prachum Tat was actually taken over or replaced by the Tan Kru Mei. Now, the chief monk Tan Kru Mei was also appointed by the Sultan of Kelantan, which replaces Sultan Muhammad IV, that is Sultan Ismail, who reigned from 23rd December 1920 to 20th June 1944. Yeah, there is a continuity of appointments and relationship between the Siamese Sangha chief and also the Sultan of Kelantan. This is where the relationship between the Kelantan Palace and the Kelantan Siamese Sangha, it is something that actually even been taken notice by many researchers. And I would like to quote here a statement by a well-known researcher. He wrote his paper, actually research many years ago, but this paper is still being actually referred by many people. Now, Muhammad Yusuf Ismail, in his research Buddhism in a Muslim state, Theravada practices and religious life in Kelantan, it stated that, I quote, "The former Buddhist ecclesiastical organization of Kelantan recognizes the Sultan of Kelantan, a Muslim ruler, as its symbolic patron and protector. This arrangement could be traced to the historical past when Kelantan was a vassal state of Thailand, during which local rulers were expected to look after the interests of Siamese Buddhist subjects. This gives rise to a type of state-sangha relationship, which in many ways resembles that of Thailand, only that it is modified in Kelantan's case by the presence of a Muslim ruler instead of the usual Buddhist king. And the photo you are looking at now actually is between the one of the chief abbot of the Kelantan Sangha and a former Sultan of Kelantan. So you look carefully who are they and make some research, then you'll be aware how close the relationship is. Now, we will now move a little bit down south a bit to Pasir Mas. Now, Pasir Mas actually has a very important and beautiful Wat, and this Wat is called Wat Utamaran. Now, Wat Utamaran initially was been planned earlier to be built in the 19th century, but it started only to be built in 1900 and ready to be used in 1928. Now, before that, there was an existing sala in the village as early as the 19th century. Now, a sala is a place where actually whether for the monk who are visiting to take rest, or even for the residents or the villagers to meet to have a discussion. Yeah? And if you look carefully, even until now, Buddhist Wats in Kelantan takes a long time to build from the beginning when it was initiated until it was ready. Yeah, for this Wat Utamaran, you notice that when it started to build in 1900 and was ready only in 1928. Now, Wat Utamaran, right, is very important because also one thing is very beautiful is in the different shapes. Most of the time that we see this ubosot or the boat in the local language, usually it's a squarish, but this one is come in about in of different shapes of different type of structure, like eight-pointed. Yeah. Now, ubosot is the most important and sacred building within a Wat compound. And this ubosot is used especially for important occasions, and including like upasambara during the full ordination ceremony, for the recitation of the patimokkha or the monastic code of discipline, and during the completion of the wasa or the kalipangsa ceremony, and chanting of during katina and meditation. Now, other than that, ubosot are usually closed. And it is not just anybody just enter, you just like go in for prayers. No, it is most of the time it is locked, right? Because it is a sacred and it's a very, very much respected place. Yeah. Now, one of the most famous Siamese monks in Kelantan resided in this temple some time ago. Now, Pravijarana Yanmuni or Chow Kun Kron, also known as Tok Raja. He was born in 1876 and passed away in 1962. He was the abbot of Wat Utamaran between 1945 to 1962. In short, Tan Chow Kron was appointed as a chief monk of Kelantan Siamese Sangha by the Sultan Ibrahim Ibn Muhammad IV, who was the Sultan of Kelantan from 1944 to 1960. Now, the Tok Raja is known to be the first Siamese monk in Kelantan to be conferred the title Chow Kun by the Thai king. And two of his famous disciples were Po Tan Tit and Po Tan Hua, who built the huge sitting Buddha and a reclining Buddha respectively. Now, under the Tok Raja's initiative, Wat Utamaran also established the first Naktam school in Kelantan in 1949. I'll explain about what is the Naktam school or Naktam examination later on. Now, Chow Kun Kron, also known as Tok Raja, is well known for his prowess in curing illness or those affected by supernatural forces. And the amulets produced by him are much sought after even until today. Yeah, you can go into the internet, you can see that some of the amulets that actually that link to him are sold with the high price. Yeah, and he's very, very, very well respected by many, including the Kelantan royal family. Now, after his passing away, now this is something that actually many would have known. Now, after his passing away, and on the day of his cremation, in a very rare gesture by a Malay Muslim royalty, the then Sultan Kelantan, by that time is Sultan Yayak Petra, accorded the late Tok Raja the highest honor when the Sultan himself lighted the fire of the funeral pyre. Now, usually it's done by the senior in the community, but the Sultan himself did it. Okay. Now let's go a little bit back up north a bit on the west of in Tumpat, in the Kampung Kubang Panjang, in the temple called Wat Sukuntaram. Now, during our photography team's visit to this temple in October 2019, now there are many actually volunteers from surrounding villages who were making preparations for Katina, right? And this particular temple, if you can look at it carefully, they have a large open ground, open space. And this is actually a community hall, right? And then you can see the chief monk, actually this is where his a place of residence, yeah, at the back here. You can see that actually huge place. This is why actually the Wat is one of the main venues where the Kelantanese Siamese community converge during major religious and cultural activities. Now, this is I met the chief monk, Paul Tan Sun. Normally in Kelantan Siamese community, or even in Kedah or Perlis, because the local devotees will address the monks as Potan, and then followed by their so-called nickname. That's why I mentioned like Potan Tit, Potan Sun, even like Potan Hua. This is very normal, yeah, because sometimes you can't even remember the full official name of the Siamese monks. Yeah. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the functions of the Siamese temples. Now, it is one of the is on the religious practice and merit making. Now, if you look at it, if you have went to Siamese temple regularly, you have participated in some of those events, including the offering of dana, offering of robes. Now, one of the activities that usually been carried out is the activities called the offering of robes, or they call it Tot Papa, right, in Thai. Okay, because the Siamese community practice a lot of merrymaking by offering, supporting the temple, supporting the monks. And this offering of robes, or the Tot Papa, which can be held any time of the year, but the one that they only carried out once a year, as one many Theravada Buddhists does, is the they call it a Tot Katin or Katina, where it's only held once a year after the completion of the Puasa. And we know very well that, or if you have seen or read, that the Siamese monks also conduct various ceremonies for the devotees, including blessing for your new cars, also during your funerals, and a happy moment during your wedding, and also some other blessing, maybe your birthdays or what, right? So that is basically the symbiotic relation between the Sangha and also the devotees. Yeah. Now, if you, this is where I mentioned about the community hall. It is a place for gathering. You can just turn it during Katina for meals. You can see a lot of people are sitting here having an array of Siamese local delicacies. You should actually make the effort to visit the Siamese Wats during the Katina or during the Majors Festival, and participate in the event to make yourself be like one, feel like one, and enjoy also the food, the what they call it, the prepared by the locals. Now this is where the community hall, where the community can gather for their various activities, and you can see that these photos were taken, right, during the preparation for Katina. The men's folk, and the women, they are there to help out to make preparations for Katina, preparing the food and various things, right? This is part and parcel of what the Thai Buddhist temples are all about. They sometimes when you go without major festivals, you may see it's very empty, but during a huge festival, you can see all the villages will converge and help out and participate in the events. Now let's see further on this. Some of those events, other than that, you also can have the Loi Krathong, Songkran, Katina. These are major religious festivals where the ladies and the gentlemen and the children, everybody is there to help out and involved in various activities. Now, let's go to the Siamese Wat, which is actually patronized by many Peranakan Cina Kelantan, that is in Waka Baru at Wat Pracha Cinaram. Now, Wat Pracha Cinaram was started in 1965 with the construction of the Sala Hall. That means for the monks to rest, and also the villagers to meet up, right? And the Ubosot was built from August 1978 to June 1998. It took a long time, but you can see this is a beautiful, actually, Ubosot. This is was recently actually been refurbished, and you can see this, all those gleaming tiles on top the roof, right? And it is not a very huge temple compound, but it caters to a very special, actually, community. The local Chinese community has been supporting things since the beginning of this temple, and the congregation I mentioned actually are mostly from the Peranakan Cina Kelantan. Now, even in 1980, the Persatuan Buddhist Wakaf Baru was established by the local community to provide assistance to this temple, and many of these the congregation of the Peranakan Cina, they established a Persatuan Peranakan Cina Kelantan at this place in 1989. You see how close relationship between the Peranakan Cina Kelantan and this Siamese temple. And one of the important, actually, practice of the devotees to support the monks in the temple is a roster system. They call it Keng Vien. Now, this is where the devotees will offer food dana to the monks from among the Siamese community. But because this in Wat Pracha Cinaram surrounding are mostly Peranakan Cina, they also does the same. Now, this Keng Vien system is that the food, daily food dana is practiced as a team effort based on a roster. Now, where each household takes turns once every 2 weeks to prepare the food to be offered as dana to the monks. Now, the Peranakan Chinese of Kelantan perform this dana regularly. The system, the Keng Vien system in Wat Pracha Cinaram involves 3 nearby Kampung Cina. So this is where actually you can see the photo was taken recently during one of the offerings. Now, I mentioned about the community, about the Siamese community, but what about the Chinese community and the Siamese Wats? Now, the Siamese Wats have been receiving many local Chinese devotees and supporters since decades ago. The Chinese community provide huge monetary and support in kind to this temple, and even the huge sitting Buddha statue and other images, right, that you can notice. It shows the influence of the Chinese Mahayana practitioners. Okay, as you can see the photos here. at the Wat Machimaran. Yeah, so that is how you can see also in other Siamese Wats. You can see the features, even the Chinese deities, and Mahayana Buddhism's influence, the huge Kuan Yin. There are also many other huge Kuan Yin images in Siamese Wats. You can see this is a support that actually the relationship between the Chinese community and the Siamese Wats. Now, the Siamese Wats actually plays a very important role, especially since the 1940s, when the Wats actually established the Thai language and Dhamma classes or Dhamma school for the Siamese community children from surrounding areas. Because if the community doesn't has these Thai language classes, sooner or later they might have faced a problem of the children not speaking Thai. So when in the 1940s, when it was started, the program was actually spread out, and more of the Wats actually start to establish these schools, and the from the Thai side, from Thailand, the Sangha Council, the other side, they also supported these initiatives by supplying the syllabus and materials for the school. As you can see here, right, all these actually in Thai. These are all actually imported from Thailand, and they have the Thai groups, Buddhist group in Thailand supporting the Thai language and Dhamma school in Kelantan. Now, this is an example of the Thai classes. This when our team visited this Wat Pikutong that time, some classes were ongoing. It was during the school holidays weekend. You can see there's a Siamese monk actually act as a teacher to teach actually the Siamese children here, and they have different classes. Yeah, these are all Siamese children. This is a Siamese monk, and we also actually meet up with some volunteers teachers who are locals, Siamese locals. They teach Buddhism and also Thai language. This is what they call it, the Thai and Dhamma school and cultural school in Wat Pikutong. Yeah. Okay. One aspect of this particular temple is also, after so many years of having the Dhamma school and the Thai language and also having activities, now some of the past students of this temple, they even actually started an alumni for the purpose of assisting the current students and residents at nearby villages. Now, this is a very good initiative because it is how they can actually prolong and support the temple to keep on educating the young and also helping those needy ones in the Siamese villages. Yeah. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, the first Naktam school in Kelantan was actually established in 1949 under the initiative of Tok Raja or the Chaukun Kron of Wat Tamaran. Now, the Siamese monks are encouraged to sit for a Naktam examination, which syllabus covers the Buddha's teachings. Now, the Naktam are conducted in 3 levels, namely the elementary, or they call it Naktam 3, intermediate Naktam 2, and this the higher one is Naktam 8. Now, those who pass this examination will be issued a certificate by the Thai Supreme Council. Yeah? And you can see that this is a large building. Actually, is a purpose built for the Thai language and also Dhamma class. Now it's 3-story, and is 12 classrooms. When we visited, there were some classes going on. Now, this is how important of education for our Buddhist community, and including the Siamese community. Right now, what an aspect of the services, or the functions of the Wat. When we talk about, we go for our Dhamma classes, learning the languages, social services, going for the celebration. Now, Siamese Wat also functions at a place where actually the last moment when a person died, especially for Siamese Buddhists, usually when after they pass away, usually they are cremated. And if you look carefully, this is actually a crematorium. Now is a crematorium, right? And this is also a crematorium. You see the where you can see the chimney, right? Now, if you go to any of those Siamese Wats, if you see a building similar to that with this chimney, most probably it will be a crematorium, and normally it is built actually either further down or just somewhere in a corner, right? You look at this, actually this is in what the dragon boat temple at Wat Mai Suwankiri, right? So you look at it, with is on this side covered by some other trees, yeah. Okay, so the Wats, most of them, they have those crematorium, right? And what about after cremation? Now after cremation, the ashes of the deceased actually can be interred within the Wat compound, or at purpose-built niches or columbarium within near the temple ground. Now, just now when we shown you, if you visit the Wat Potivihan, the reclining Buddha, if you go to the back of the Buddha image, you're going to see actually place of the niches, of columbariums, where actually the ashes of the deceased are placed. Yeah. So if you can see here, this is a purpose-built of a structure, and you can put in actually up to 10 or more actually those store the ashes, the urns inside these niches, between 10 even until about 15 or 16, right? This is maybe a family would have purchased this and for the future use. Yeah? And you can see here, this is at what the Potikian Tutakam in Bacho. They have a similar one at the back of the temple. Yeah. So this is where the services or the functions of the temples that actually the Siamese community provided. Yeah? Now, another point is that if you see quite often, if you receive this tourism flyer, now the giant Buddhas, became a tourist attraction when it was built. As what I mentioned earlier, Paul Tan Hoa told me that actually that the reclining Buddha that he built will be attracting more people, and it is true. Now, a survey carried out in 1989 by an undergraduate for his final year thesis shows that out of 100 respondents who visited Wat Machimaram, the sitting Buddha, 96 of the visitors said their purpose of visiting the Wat is to seek the assistance and advice of the abbot, means for whether it's for the medical or for counseling or even for herbal healing. All right. Now, only 4 of the respondents said they went there for tourism purposes, because that time there was not much interesting attraction at the Wat other than Old Ubosot, which is about 200 years old. Now, after the huge sitting Buddha was completed in year 2000, nowadays, if you see, it is normal for regular visitors arriving in tourist buses to the temple to view the main temple attraction, which far exceeded those who intended to meet the abbot. So does the various Siamese Wats, which has a huge Buddha images. Now, the Wat had become one of the important sites to be visited by tourists, especially those who are keen with religious attractions. Yeah. Now, and where the visitors comes from actually to that visit in Kelantan. Now, this is the summary of the findings of a statistic. If you look carefully, states which has better road connectivity, Kelantan, are the main source of visitors to Kelantan, yeah, like Selangor, Terengganu, Kuala Lumpur, and Pahang. These are all states which actually got a direct link, whether by road or by rail. Yeah, that is where and by flight too. If you look at it now, another point is that at the Siamese Swords, it is also something that actually many other Theravada temples, non-Siamese Theravada temple, which does not actually look into this. But the Siamese ones, they other than the community hall that they build for various functions, they also cater for the younger people, the younger generation. Like they have a futsal court, football field, and even a children playground. Now, this is how actually the Siamese one actually is a center of community. Now, it allows everyone to benefit from the existence of this temple. Now, as I mentioned, all the Siamese Wats in Kelantan are actually managed by the Siamese Sangha Council of Kelantan. The photo you are looking at now, this is old photo. Okay, the chief monk of the Sangha Council already passed away. Okay, this is an old photo, but I just want to show you that the structure. Now, the Siamese Sangha Council of Kelantan is headed by a Sangha governor, they call it, or sometimes the chief monk. Okay, and with two deputy and representatives from the various Wats and Samnak Song in Kelantan to oversee the temples in Kelantan. Now, further down the structure, the Wats are further gathered in groups at district level for better management. There are 4 groups of temples in whole Kelantan, with 2 of them in Tumpat district, because as I mentioned, Tumpat has 12 Wats and it's been divided into 2 groups. That means Tumpat 1 and Tumpat 2. The other 2 groups are those that gathered the district of Bacho and Pasir Puteh in one group, and Pasir Mas and Tanah Merah in another one. Now, one of the challenges faced by the Siamese community, Buddhist community in Kelantan, is the availability of local monks to manage the Wats and conduct various religious services. The numbers of Siamese monks serving long-term in the Wats has been declining, even though the number of Siamese is increasing by the numbers. Yes? The ratio of local monks to the Siamese residents in Kelantan has been dropping since the last century. Now, we know that not every person who became a monk through the, what they call it, the ordination ceremony, or Wat Pra, they call it, will be staying on as a monk throughout his life. Yeah? Some left after a short period, after fulfilling their cultural responsibilities to make merit for their family and themselves. Now, and to help the chief monk in a Wat to manage the activities, usually a temple committee, or they call it Kamakan, Wat, will be appointed to help the monk, chief monk, to run the temple and as a link with the local Siamese community. Now, the monks in the Siamese community in the Wats, they have a system of training, right? System of training. Now, since the establishment of the Siamese settlements in Kelantan, it is a normal practice for adult men to experience the life of a monk as a samanera, as being practiced in Thailand. Monks in Kelantan also went to Thailand to pursue their religious studies, and there are also monks who came from Thailand to teach the local monks. Now, before anyone joins the monkhood, there are a few steps to be followed, and one of them is helping out at the temple as temple boys, or they call it a Dekwat. This practice was slowly phased out after the 1960s, when many of the Siamese children started to enroll in formal government schools, right, or prefer to get a job to support the family or help out in the paddy field. Yeah, and most of the Siamese community in Kelantan are farmers. Yeah? Now, and then the next step is to become a Nen or a Samanera, temporary monk. They will have to go through a ceremony to be ordained, and after the certain period, when they reach age 20, these temporary monks, actually they have a choice to become a full-fledged monk long-term, or they can actually continue to be as a Nen, or or go back to his family to live a layman. Like I said, most of them actually, after they, as a Samanera, done their religious and cultural requirements, they will go back as their to live their life. That's why the monks ratio, Siamese monks ratio in Kelantan are actually reducing. Yeah. Now, just a quick one. The ordination ceremony, or they call it the Buat Pra, actually is held in the Ubosot, the boat that I mentioned, and they have a process of getting consent from monks to be ordained. And after they've been ordained, the monk with the new name will be registered in the Sangha name list. Yeah, so the process actually goes with various now in summary, in a state where the community comprised only a small minority of population, the existence of numerous colossal Buddha statue and other iconography created a significant space for the Siamese community to enable their religious and cultural presence to be felt by others, not only in their own state, but nationally and even globally. More huge Buddha statues are expected to be built at the Wats in years to come. Now, for instance, at Wat Mutamaram, it is currently planning to construct a gigantic statue of Tok Raja in the temple compound. Right. So in Kelantan, many aspects of Islamic and Malay cultural religious lifestyles are clearly dominant, with 96% of the population being Malay Muslims, and the state government being headed by an Islamic-based party for most of the years since independence. For the Chinese community, even though having only 60,000 population headcounts, but possessing strong acumen and strength in the economic field, are able to make their presence felt beyond their own community enclave. Now, 2. Siamese temples with giant Buddha statue in Kelantan will continue to attract more local and foreign visitors, Buddhists or non-Buddhists alike, which are expected to be translated to more donations to the Wats for the maintenance programs and development projects. The wide influence of the affluent Chinese community devotees on Siamese temples can be seen with many iconography related to Chinese Mahayana Buddhism, like Kuan Yin, Amitabha, Maitreya Buddha. Some even build deities related to Chinese beliefs like Tua Kong and also Kuan Kong. Now, the flow of visitors are expected to continue, with more Chinese devotees and others outside of Kelantan visiting the state. And the Wats, when accessibility are made easier with the completion of the third phase of the East Coast Expressway from Gemuruh Setiu to Pengkalan Kubo, right? And the East Coast Rail Link. Now, on top of those, budget flights that are available to Kota Baru. Now, this is where they're going to shorten the traveling time, the Lebuh Raya Pantai Timur, now where you reduce by hours. Yeah? Now, the efforts must be taken, especially from the Chinese devotees, to continue to engage with the local Siamese community beyond the usual building of new structures or supporting major religious events like Katina and Vesak, but also to collaborate with the Wats on Dhamma-based programs, especially for the younger generation still in the villages and those who had migrated to cities for economic purposes. This is where Buddhist centers in the cities should take effort to engage with Siamese Buddhist youth, which has actually migrated from the state of Kelantan or Terengganu, so that create some space for them actually in the Buddhist centers, whether you are Theravada or Mahayana. Now, it is crucial, yeah, for the Siamese community to preserve their heritage and identity by continuing to provide Thai language and Dhamma classes for the younger generations, and promote community development by having various cultural activities which involve residents from the nearby villages. Now, the local Siamese Buddhist community identity and cultural practices need to be maintained and protected as part of the intangible heritage of Buddhism in Malaysia. While the financial support from the more affluent and larger Chinese community are most welcome, this support must be provided without the pressure or intention to change the landscape of the local Siamese Theravada Buddhist practices, outlook, and norms. The monetary and support in kind should not be used as a license to change the characteristics and identity of Theravada Buddhism as practiced in the Wats, and reduction of Chinese influence iconography by insisting on constructing religious statues and ceremonial structures with Chinese Mahayana features. Okay, I would like to thank everyone for listening for this presentation, and also the Malaysia Buddhist Festival and the Selangor Buddhist Development Council photography team, which traveled to East Coast for the photography and the research work. And thank you for your attention.